Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host, and today, guys, we're going to be talking about what new contractors need to know. So, I'm Dillon Mitchell. I've done $1 billion worth of construction, electrical engineer, and through this process, and now we work exclusively with really electrical contractors on design build projects, and we come across a lot of new contractors, guys that are just getting started, just trying to figure this industry out. And I thought it would be beneficial to walk through kind of what you need to know as a new contractor, right? You've got your license, you've been doing this for a while, right? You got your journeyman's card, in California, maybe your C10 license, and you can do all the work, but now what, right? You want to run your own show, be your own boss, all that kind of good stuff. What do you need to know to actually run your own show, right? Be a contractor and do all this work. So doing the work is frankly going to be the easy part. The rest of it is where it gets a little complicated, and now welcome to business. So here's some of the things that you've got to work through and understand and really get your team and support system around you, even if it's just yourself. Now, I do recommend getting someone to help you in the office, or really an executive assistant, to help run, schedule, and do a lot of the paperwork that's associated with just being a contractor. So in the office, it's answering the phone, booking meetings, right? Helping you sort through permits. Are they accepted? What needs to be corrected on the drawings? Or what other things do you have to have done? Insurance, right? So having your person in the office to help you with general stuff like meetings, admin, making sure proposals get out, contracts get signed, permits get submitted, everything gets executed. Using your accountant for invoicing or helping you to invoice is also massively beneficial. Some of this can be done in conjunction with like your executive assistant or your office manager. The other things that you're going to have to need, so you really have just this one big layer of admin of, again, paperwork stuff, invoicing, billing, collecting, all that needs to get done. And again, if you don't get paid for any of the work you do, you're not really in business. But on the other side of it is, do you have insurance in place, right, to cover everything that you're going to do and cover what owners are going to require of you to work on their projects? The next is financing. Do you have financing in place to finance the projects that you're working on? To, if you're going to go 90 days in doing the work and not getting paid for it, then, how are you going to bridge those gaps? The next is vendors and suppliers. So there's some things that you're going to be able to get and do in residential jobs, right? Home Depot's your best friend, and Lowe's for any residential projects you might be working on. But once you get kind of past residential or into even multifamily and then really into commercial office space, now you're in a different level and a category of project. One, the permitting and plan submissions are completely different. Now you're going to have really an engineer of record to sign, stamp those drawings, get them submitted. You're going to have to go through plan review. There's going to be corrections. In California, you have all of Title 24 to worry about, which is its own beast to get through the permitting and planning process. So with this, you're going to have to make sure that you have suppliers and everybody else on board with that project, and then understanding who you're going to go after and the types of work you're going to go after. A lot of this isn't going to apply to you if you stay in the residential market. It's just not going to apply. But if you go into new construction, and then especially into, commercial, industrial, healthcare is a whole different beast. A lot of this is going to apply, and it's going to apply in ways that you probably haven't yet thought of. One, the timelines are going to be a lot different. They're going to be bigger. Things are going to be more drawn out. You have, if you're doing any design build projects, you're going to have the whole planning process, right? Putting drawings together, getting designs done, getting designs approved, going into permitting, and making sure, again, that whole planning approval process with Planning and Zoning Commission. Then once that's good, everything's been approved, you go and you start to order equipment, right? Start to order supplies, materials, get everything on site. You start submitting invoices, project starts rolling. Now, some of this you may or may not be comfortable in moving ahead with before you get permits to ultimately do the job. That's a risk you got to be willing to take, or understanding what you're in for in submitting ahead of time and not getting those plan approvals. So understanding your clients, who they are, the process is really going to be a huge benefit to you guys in going through this, right? A lot of guys that we end up talking to and kind of helping shepherd through this process is you got to slow down a little bit. You can't do everything right now. These things take time. Not an exorbitant amount of time, but it does take time to get stuff. You know, I talked to a guy and they were wanting to, put in lights in a new office. Again, brand new contractor trying to figure this whole thing out, and putting in lights in a, commercial office space, and wants them to be nice and everything like that. Cool. Got it. Like, look, man, we got to put these on the drawings. We got to design them. It's in California, so we have to go through Title 24. We need cut sheets for all of these. We got to go through approval processes for all this stuff. Like, you're used to probably just running and gunning and doing all this, but we got to slow down, take a step back, go through the drawings, get everything approved. Then once it's approved, then you can start buying stuff. And, if you're complaining about a week and a half, 2 week lead time in something getting shipped from somewhere else, like, that's kind of a problem. Like, if you don't have 2 weeks in your schedule, to get these things, then you haven't planned properly for the project, right? You can do all the other power stuff while you're waiting on lights to show up. There's a lot of planning that can go into this project to, understand the timing of when things are going to arrive on site. You stored them, so you don't have to go on Amazon and get things the next day. Like, one, that's not going to work for planning approvals. Two, you're never going to get any of that warranted. 3, you have no support for it. If it breaks, now good luck trying to call Amazon. And then 4, for all the controls that are required in pretty much any corporate office that you're going to do, but especially Title 24 in California, you're like shit out of luck, man. So you got to really understand what the process is, what's required, what's law in most of the cases, right? Title 24, Energy Code, those are all laws in basically every state. Title 24 is California specific, but energy codes do apply in every other state. So you're going to have to go through this one way or the other. Some are just more stringent than others, and that's okay. So as a new contractor, just kind of take a step back, plan your jobs. I know everything's chaotic. You got a lot going on. But do try to get some help up front, especially with a lot of the office and admin. I know proposals are still going to be on you. I know quotes are still going to be on you, but getting someone to help you run through the office and admin and scheduling meetings, taking calls, kind of playing defense a little bit, doing some blocking and tackling for you is going to be a huge help to, again, take a lot of this off your mind so that you can do what you're best at, which, again, in the beginning, it's going to be quotes, proposals, and then doing the work. But making sure that your schedules are, on time, or everything kind of lines up. You've got all your manufacturers and vendors on your team, and those guys can really take a lot of weight and pressure off of you if you do this right. So hugely important thing to remember, that you do and can get a lot of support. Some of this is it's all through relationships, right? Like lighting, vendors, suppliers, agencies. You can make phone calls to them, but you're not going to be able to order things off a website. That's not how this works. You got to have counts. You issue purchase orders. You go back and forth with them to ultimately get that done. So for a lot of this, it's not an Amazon simple click button, because again, depending on the project, you're probably bidding it. It's probably competitive, and then pricing does vary. This is not fixed pricing. Everybody's got kind of different tiers of pricing, and especially on volume. Some of the bigger lighting agencies, like your Lithonias, your Coopers, your Hubbles, you're not going to get into with any good pricing off the bat. You just don't have the volume. The guys that work with those agencies at scale are doing, millions of dollars a year just in light fixtures alone, not including the rest of everything else that they do. So in the beginning, like, it's going to be hard for you to work with them and get competitive pricing on those agencies. And then again, your Home Depot stuff is not usually the quality that you want to install in offices or have the selection that you want, or is going to meet, all the Title 24 things that you need for offices and or warranties and the rest of it. So we want to make sure that, again, we're working with trusted vendors, suppliers for all of this, trusted financing and banking partners, trusted basically everybody. Like insurance guys, you're going to have a lot of insurance things you're going to run into, from workers' comp to liability to general umbrella overhead insurance to vehicle, like you name it. Those are all going to be requirements and things you guys are going to have to come up with, right, for your certificate of insurance. So as you go through this, there's a lot to know as a new contractor, but just know that you got to build that network, build that team to help you be the most successful that you can be on each and every one of your projects. Now, as Vertical Design Services, we're here to help contractors kind of help navigate some of this. We do have a lot of contacts in the industry and can help shepherd you through this process, from design, connecting you with partners, and getting you connected to who you need to ultimately, I say make good decisions, but it's really to keep your interests in mind and make your projects successful. Because if you aren't successful, right, all your partners, they lose all that business. So like, you got to win for everybody else to win. So this ecosystem really helps everybody in the process. And so we want to see more people be successful, because that just helps everybody else. So without further ado, guys, that's going to be this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Until next